All right, the time being 7 o'clock, I'll open the January 20th meeting of the Oxford Board of Selectmen. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, which is General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order concerning imposition on strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Meetings in the town of Oxford are being conducted by a remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Before we proceed, I would like to take attendance. So I will start out with Selectman Megan Triano.
Present.
Selectman Cheryl LeBlanc.
Present.
Selectman Mike Daniels.
Present.
Selectman John Sad.
Present.
And I am Selectman Dennis Lamash. I am also here. And we have Town Manager Jen Callahan is here. I also see Larry McDonald, our Fire Chief, and Dennis Fitzgibbons, our Fire EMT Union Rep for the Fire Department is here. And I see Roy Aquavresca is probably on by phone by the looks. And that is our attendance for this evening. First item on our agenda is approval of meeting minutes. We have 4 sets of meeting minutes. And I would entertain a motion that we approve those meeting minutes for November 10th, November 24th, December 15th, and December 31st of 2020.
I'd make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. Any concerns? All right, call for vote.
Yes.
Dennis, I vote yes to the first 3. I wasn't here for the last one.
Okay, you abstained for the
Yes,
December 31st. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'll vote yes also.
John?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes on all 4. So that's for the first 3, that's 5 in the affirmative. For the last one, it's 4 in the affirmative, 1 abstention, and those are approved. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is our mileage reimbursement rate increase. All right. Do I need to, Jen, do you want to?
Sure, I don't have any problem just talking. Every year, the Internal Revenue Service issues optional standard mileage rates, and they get recalculated usually at the end of the prior calendar year. And this is used to calculate deductible costs of operating automobiles, charitable, medical, or moving purposes. And starting on July 1, that rate usually gets tweaked. And this year, the standard mileage rate for the use of a car, which also includes vans, pickups, and panel trucks, will be 56 cents per mile for business use. That's down by a penny and a half from the previous year. So it's in order for us to actually adopt that so that we can compensate at that particular mileage rate of 56 cents per mile. At this time, I'd entertain the adoption of that IRS standard mileage rate for 2020 going into 2021.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the Internal Revenue Service 2021 standard mileage rate of 56 cents per mile.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Jen? Cool.
And hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
They're from yesterday.
Yes.
I just don't.
Yes.
Okay.
They're in your actual. report.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative.
Oh, there's more.
So that is the new rate for mileage. Very good. All right, we're a little ahead of time, so
This is why we shouldn't have time.
I don't even see the chief here yet. So Jen, you want to start your manager's report?
Sure, will do. I will bypass on the first one because it's the Sakarapa Bridge update that I had our new director, Jared Duval, going to give. So I'm sure he'll pop in a little bit. The second item has to do with the collective bargaining agreement. I know that we moved quickly at the end of the year, particularly at the request of both some firefighters and also our human resources to be able to make sure that any of the increases that we had in one given calendar year wouldn't affect people adversely, particularly in their filings going into this calendar year. So on January 14th, the International Association of Firefighters, Local 4634, voted to ratify the collective bargaining agreement. And I know that I've talked about it. I've highlighted some of the aspects of the agreement. This will be in effect from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. It's my opportunity to give the lieutenant who was at the negotiating table the floor, so to speak. He wasn't able to attend when we were actually trying to get the signing of the agreement done, and also the voting on the behalf of the town accomplished in order to make sure that all members of the union were able to benefit from what I think was a very well negotiated contract. But I'll let him have the opportunity. I've already spoken about the contract, but I do want to say publicly that both Lieutenant Fitzgibbons and Lambert were exceptional at the table. We had a lot of give and take. We had a couple moments where we looked each other, I think, straight in the eye and tried to come to real consensus. I appreciate the chief's input, particularly from the firefighting and the emergency preparedness side. But I'll leave the floor to the lieutenant and see if he has anything to say, because I know he wanted the opportunity to address the board and the public at large. Go ahead, Lieutenant. Oh, you may have to unmute yourself in the lower left-hand corner. There you go, Dennis.
There it is, yeah. We're doing a lot of Zoom with school, so I'm pretty good at the Zoom now. Yeah, I think that the contract negotiations took longer than we hoped. The whole COVID situation really lengthened out the process. But we're pleased with the outcome. I think it's a very fair contract. We presented it to the guys last week, and they unanimously voted to accept the contract. So we're looking forward to put it behind us and get this a done deal, so to say. So thanks for the chance to talk.
You're welcome, Lieutenant. You're welcome. Chief, I didn't know if you had anything else further to add.
I just want to thank the union president and vice president, Lieutenants Fitzgibbons and Lambert, for their efforts in putting together a good package and working very hard with us, and for their patience through this thing. COVID's been a difficult thing, and I'm glad that through your efforts, Madam Town Manager, we were able to take care of this so that they weren't splitting things up between two IRS reporting periods to be able to get this closed off before the 31st. So a little unorthodox, but I think necessary, and just very appreciative of everybody. And of course, the support of the board, the town manager, and the citizens of Oxford. It helps us to do our job that much easier. So thank you.
Thank you to you both. Thank you. The next item on my agenda for the board is the superintendent search. And the superintendent search has started to take underfoot here for us. The school committee has hired New England School Development Council to assist them in actually searching and hiring a new superintendent. The board has been emailed a survey to garner input from the individual members of the Board of Selectmen about the attributes, experiences, and the desired goals for a new superintendent. The survey is due by February 1st. I know that you have that. I just also wanted you to know that I have also had the consulting firm reach out to me personally to have a one-on-one interview. And I know that they've done that even with the current acting superintendent. And I had spent quite a bit of time on the phone with them the other day and gave them that input, and will also expressly put out to the general public that we're looking for those surveys to come back so that they can put together a really good profile and hopefully, retain someone that will be as exceptionally collaborative as Dr. Christine Nash has been. We've had a very cooperative and I think very healthy relationship on behalf of the school district. Speaking of school, the next item is to let us all be aware that I had reported previously in one of our meetings that we had filed a statement of interest to the Mass School Building Authority in hopes that for one of our schools, even though we submitted 3 different proposals, that we might be able to get some assistance for some of the major capital items. But for myself, in talking with Justin Ledoux in the school department, I had reached out to the executive director for the School Building Authority before we made this statement of interest proposal and filing, in hopes that we could actually have a very successful endeavor, perhaps maybe earlier. Most of the applicants that went in this year were looking at years later to be able to perhaps get one of their proposals entertained by the School Building Authority. Very happy and pleased to hear that the middle school proposal that we had submitted after taking the advice and meeting with staff of the MSBA, and then conveying those, I think, very important criteria for our submission to Justin Ledoux. We are now hearing that they are going to advance the middle school proposal into the next round, which means we're at the beginning stages of talking with the MSBA and discussing the potential scope and potential project depth. And hopefully we will be able to go forward with a proposal in the not so distant future that will be also supported by the MSBA. The next item on the agenda is.
All right, Jen,
Sure.
excuse me, I think I'm gonna, it's 13 past, so I think I'll go
Okay.
on to the next agenda item, if you don't mind, and we'll come back to your
No,
report.
that's fine. I wasn't.
All right, no problem. Yep. All right, the time being that next item is a CD decision making the appointment authority relative to civil service lateral transfer of Roy Akravesca. Basically, what we're doing here is if we approve this, we would give the chief of police, which is Anthony Sad, the responsibility of dealing with this action that Roy wants to transfer back to Millbury. Board members.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, Jen.
You go forward. I just wanted to give a little background because of the fact that we have 2 letters that are before you. I do want you to know that I have received that correspondence also from both, including our chief, who has expressed his sentiments on the issue. I do want you also to know that we had done some consulting with our legal counsel, and our legal counsel had given us the recommendation that we could proceed in this manner in order to allow the chief, just for this particular lateral transfer request, the ability or the authority to make that decision. I think in the letter that you have, you will see, I think, some valid reasons why the head of that department believes that it is necessary and desirable to keep Roy Aquafresca in the employment of the town of Oxford. I think he outlines those reasons. If the board will just focus on whether they would allow the chief to make that decision, that is all we're doing this evening. If they choose not to, and the board has that option to do that, then we would need to talk about this in a different meeting, and that would have to be planned on a different time period. I just want to make sure we're not getting into the conversation back and forth about the actual aspects, other than the fact that there's been a request and the chief is asking the board at this time to cede the decision-making appointment authority relative to this lateral transfer request to the actual chief.
Very good. Thank you, Jen, for clarifying that. So I'll bring it back to the board. What would you like to do?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Megan, please.
I had a chance to read Officer Aquafresca's letter and also Chief Sad's letter. And I'm troubled by the fact that it took so long for the letters to reach our desk. We just received them yesterday. I personally don't feel that we have had adequate time to review and figure out the merits of this issue. So at this point, I am not comfortable ceding that decision-making appointment authority. I think that it warrants an executive session because it's a personnel issue to see what's going on before we can make an informed decision as to if we should relinquish these rights, given that we are considered to be the commissioners of the police department. I think we need to make an informed decision prior to just handing it off. I, for one, have always said that we should let the police chief be the police chief, and I fully admit that. However, I also think that if I'm going to be making a decision on something, given that we haven't gotten rid of civil service and those rules yet, I want to be able to make as an informed decision as possible. So at this point, I think that we should maybe table this and revisit it once we've had time to adequately review the situation and perhaps have an executive session on it.
Thank you, Megan, but I totally disagree. I don't know how long you need to have 2 letters in your possession to just read what's there. And like you said it, I think the police chief is the best person that knows his personnel, knows the issue as to what's going on, which we don't. And we're not going to know that because it's not part of this decision. It's simply a fact of, do we have enough trust in our police chief to allow him to handle his employees properly? That's all it is. So I hear what you're saying, but I am personally going to make a motion that we approve, that we allow the chief to be the decision-making person related to the civil service lateral transfer that is being requested by Roy Aquafresca. So I'll make that motion. In a second.
I'll second the motion.
So we have a motion and a section. We have more discussion.
Hi, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sure.
You know, I'm a little confused about the whole thing. So, but I did read the letters. I have a concern in the sense that I understand that, you know, and certainly we have this debate all of the time, right? Like we appoint police officers and patrolmen and lieutenants and sergeants and, you know, and things like that. And I don't understand why this particular circumstance would not be something similar to that, especially where, I mean, maybe if I had some more notice and a little bit more understanding, but I don't see any harm in waiting either. I think it gets really concerning when we start making inconsistent rules. And again, this is just me talking very off the top of my head because I haven't really had a chance to process it. But I hear what you're saying. I don't want you to think that I don't understand what you're saying, but from a discussion perspective, I'm inclined to take more time on this. That's my inclination on it. I don't know what the other board members think, but that's my thought on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mike.
my thought process on this is we've hired Police Chief Sad to manage his personnel. I understand we're the appointing authorities or whatnot, but we have to give him the opportunity to manage his department and take care of his department. Reading his letter, letting him take the matters into his hands and make the decision that's best for the department. I think we should be able to afford him that decision.
Thank you, Mike. Any other discussion?
Yes,
Yes, John.
Chairman. I have to be honest with you. On the surface, I tend to agree with the chairman. I have every confidence that the decision that the chief will make will be in the best interest of the community. However, I also can understand both Selectmen Cheryl and Megan's.
Us two.
You two kind ladies.
Thank you.
I can understand your position and I can appreciate it. And if you feel comfortable with getting further information, I don't see anything wrong with that. Although I agree with the chairman that we should have the confidence in the chief. He has dealt with these personnel issues and he's dealt with them very effectively. And I have every confidence that he's going to do the right thing. However, if a selectman feels uncomfortable with any issue and one selectman wants to hold up something for further information, I would honor that request. Even though I'm leaning on the side of supporting the chairman, I would acknowledge that I feel that both selectmen who have requested more time to review this and get more information, I highly respect their ability to be able to do that. So with that being said, can we get further information on this to satisfy both the selectmen that have further inquiries regarding this issue? I'd go back to you with this, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, John, I don't know what more information you can get. You know, you've got an employee that wants to transfer again, and then you have a chief that says no. So, and he knows all the reasons why. We won't find that information out because that's probably a HIPAA thing or something like that, that, you know, you're talking about an employee and his manager or his boss's situation. So I don't know how much more information you can get than what's already here. I know I met with the chief and I don't have any more information I could even share with you other than what you see in these two letters. And so we do have a motion and we do have a second. It sounds like it's going to, but at this point, then I think we're going to go forward with a vote, and it's the board's decision on what to do from there. Again, it's an employee and basically their boss. And you know, we appoint, and that's basically what we do. We oversee, but we don't get involved in personal matters, as far as I know. I've never been involved in a personal police matter before in all the years I've been on this board. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, John.
if I may. could we at least give the two selectmen that have questions the opportunity to at least speak to the chief? And then bring this back to our next meeting and vote on it? All I'm
Um,
asking here is for consideration, not only for the police department, but for two selectmen on the board that have questions. I would expect that the board would give me the courtesy if I were in their position. And all of this is a courtesy. Mr. Chairman, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But would 1 week or 2 weeks make any difference on this so that these two individuals can get satisfied after speaking to the chief?
I don't know. I can't, Jen, would you know, is there a time frame involved with this possible decision?
I can speak with the chief. I know the chief had talked to me today and said that Selectman Triano had already spoken to him. So I know that that did occur. I'm not aware of anybody else other than yourself having spoken to him. So if they would like to speak with him some more, I'm sure, you know, as the chief has always been, he will speak as much as he can. And, you know, he's not going to say no. So I would, you know, be more than happy to set it up.
All right, so I will take my motion off the table.
Mr. Chair,
And yes,
if I could just comment, this has nothing to do with the chief's ability to handle his staff. It has everything to do with the fact that it's complicated by civil service. If civil service wasn't on the table right now, and I know we don't have a choice in the matter of civil service, but if civil service wasn't on the table right now, I would have no problem in handing it over to the chief and saying, handle your staff, that's fine. However, this is complicated by civil service in that, in a sense, if his lateral transfer is denied or whatever, he's handcuffed to a job that he doesn't want to be in. And I feel like, given the timeline that's outlined, given all of the information here, I think that it warrants finding out what more is going on. I'm absolutely confident in the chief's ability to handle his staff, but I think that perhaps there's more that meets the eye. And I think that because of civil service, we owe it to look a little deeper into it. I think it warrants an executive session with the personnel, because in personnel matters, as far as I'm aware, you can have executive sessions. We had an executive session when another member was leaving to see what it would take to, not of the police department, but to see if there was any additional comments that we could have with them prior to their departure from the town. So I see no how this is any different than having a conversation with a town employee that wants to leave town. I think that it could
no,
potentially.
it's a big difference, Megan, because it's, like you said, civil service. That other employee was not involved in civil service. And I don't know why you didn't ask the chief that question today when you talked to him to get all your answers. And we are interfering. Civil service has nothing to do with this. This is simply an employee relationship with his boss. And he left, he left, he's going, he wants to leave again. You know, I'm gonna disagree with you all night long, so.
It
And I
has
hate it.
everything,
Go
it has
ahead.
everything to do with civil service, because he
No,
needs
it doesn't.
civil service, he needs permission to go to the department that he's trying to go to.
That's correct. And he's not being hand-tied because he can make a decision to do whatever he wants at any time. But you're right. Being civil service, we would have to sign off for him to go. That's correct. And what we're doing is since we don't know all the facts, and we won't know all the facts because we can't get involved in personal police issues like this, you're gonna find out, you're gonna find nothing else. And it's all gonna come back to whether we think that our chief has the right mindset and he is qualified to make a decision about his employees. So as far as I'm concerned, you're talking out of two sides of your mouth. But go ahead.
You're certainly entitled to your opinion. However, I would still respectfully request that we have an executive session
We
regard,
will not have an executive session on this issue. You can go and get your information from the police, but we are not going to have an executive session on this issue. There is no need. So I will remove my motion from the table. We can table this. You can get your information, and the next meeting, this will come back up, whether we're going to give him the authority or not. There will not be an executive session. There's no need.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Cheryl.
Thank you. So I think there's a couple of things and I respectfully, first of all, I'm going to address a couple of points. Okay. One, and this is just my position on this. I didn't see this until today, these letters today. Now, I had an opportunity to read them. I'm not saying that I didn't have an opportunity to read them. However, as this town has experienced in the past, thankfully, not under this particular regime of Board of Selectmen, it is, with the fact that the police report in some way, shape, or form to the Board of Selectmen, and because we're commissioners and all of that, I'm concerned that a police officer, and I apologize, I don't know if he's just a patrolman or a lieutenant or whatnot, but he has reached out to the Board of Selectmen because for some reason he feels compelled to reach out to us. Now, he wrote a very nice letter, and I appreciate the letter, and he also provided information to us if we wanted to reach out to him. I think that it's not as black and white as it's being portrayed to be. I think the fact that he reached out to us and there was a follow-up letter from the chief, I think we have to do the right thing for the town. And I also want to go on record that I have no doubt that the chief can indeed address this issue within his house, so to speak. I have no doubt on that. But at the same time, we have someone who reached out to us, and what this decision is for us and for him and the chief is, it has implications. And, I did not have a chance to reach out to the chief today. And to be frank with you, I don't need the chief to tell me what his personnel issue is, if there is even one that exists. But I can't dismiss, again, this is my position, I can't dismiss the fact that this particular individual has reached out to the Board of Selectmen, and I need to understand exactly what it is, because what I vote on will have an implication not only for him, have an implication for the police department. And that's the only place that I'm coming from. And I really wish no one would read any more into that other than that particular item. I don't think Selectman Triano and I have disagreed on other items. I don't think her request is that out of the park. I understand you're the chair, you can do what you wish, but I don't see any intent here other than, I don't really care what's going on, but whatever our decision is has implications one way or another. So that's my position. And I hope I clarified it a little bit, and thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. All right, so like I said, we will table this for the evening, and we will schedule it on our next meeting to bring it forward again. And that would give people time to read through the letters or talk to the chief or to Mr. Aquafresca if you'd like, according to his letter. And so with that, then we will go on to the next item on our agenda, which is the Veranda Cafe Common Vicular License Status.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to the members. Veranda Cafe was brought up in our last meeting about the fact that when we were doing annual license renewals, the board had given it a conditional license renewal if it had met all of the requirements. And one of the requirements was a 110 inspection of the premises, in which case we discovered right prior to December 31st that the actual 110 inspection was not actually conducted in a manner that allowed it to get a passing grade, so to speak. At that time, I informed the board that according to the ABCC, which is the Alcohol Board of Control Commissioners, we would not be able to allow the establishment to continue to pour alcohol. We had reached out to the establishment, and this is what I want to tell you. We've spoken to the owner. Selectman LeBlanc had asked, because I had mentioned that there was a new almost $680 million grant program for businesses being announced by the governor. She said, could there be an opportunity for the town to reach out to this particular business owner to encourage them? I want you to know that our Director of Planning and Economic Development, Tony Sousa, did just that. The owner was very appreciative, and I thank you for the suggestion to do that. I've also spoken with the executive director of the ABCC. I was obviously concerned that even though the owner had agreed to stop pouring alcohol at that time until such time he received a passing mark from our building commissioner for the alteration of premises and the building construction that took place, the ABCC had informed me that since we had, you as a board and us as a town, had voted to approve the license subject to that conditional standard that had to be met, that once that standard was met, that we did not need to sort of invoke the power or the oversight of the ABCC to step in and renegotiate an entire new application on behalf of the owner. In other words, that's great news, because that means once that requirement is met, we will be able to issue the license, and they'll be able to actually pick up from where they had been stopped from pouring because that condition wasn't met. I want you to know we've also spoken to the owner's attorney. They now understand what the real holdup was. And the holdup is we did not receive an architectural engineered plan that actually corresponded with the work that had been done. In particular, because of a roofing aspect, there was concern about snow load and things like that that could be problematic for patrons that were now sitting in the outdoor premises. So having spoken to the building commissioner as well, I think we are all in agreement, and we heard late this evening, actually, after hours, from the attorney of the owner, that they do have an architectural plan. They would have had it earlier, but the gentleman who was actually drafting the plan was affected, or the family member was affected by COVID. And so that delayed their ability to get it to the town. But I heard that it's in the mail, it's en route to the town. We will get that to the building commissioner, and hopefully he'll be able to approve it based on what he receives. And if that's the case, Veranda Cafe will be back in border, back to pouring alcohol, and will have their license issued. So I wanted to make sure that the board knew that, and we have worked in cooperation with all the different parties. That would conclude that particular thing, Mr. Chairman.
So Jen, the safety issues that like the fire department had found out, those are all cleared up. I see Captain Sellers is still on. I didn't know, so we don't have any issues with that end of the inspection.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes.
No, he did have, he had a few issues. One of them was his hood and grease capture unit under Chapter 66 of the CMRs. He did repair those issues immediately. The other issue that I had with him was the storage of flammable liquids. He had a open flamed propane heater on his porch that I had asked him to remove, and he said he would. And then when I drove by in the evening, the heater was running. And under CMR 1 Chapter 50, he cannot have that in an enclosed building. I did write him a non-criminal violation warning. He did remove it immediately, and it has not been back since. So as far as the fire department goes, all of his violations that he was cited for during the inspection have been cleaned up.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, Captain Sellers. Well, that takes away any of my concerns. Any of the other board members have any comments or concerns?
Yes.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I just want to thank the town manager and the department heads who had followed up on this, the building department, fire department. And it shows that we do take an interest when it comes to keeping people in business, especially during this very difficult time of COVID-19. I mean, they're all struggling, especially these small businesses. I mean, they're folding tents one after another all over this country. And if there's anything that we can do to work with people, I think we should make the effort. And obviously, we have made that effort thanks to the diligence of our town employees in working with this individual. And it's nice to hear that the plan is on its way. And hopefully, we will continue to work with this individual to make that establishment a growing business within our community. So I want to thank you all very much for working with our business community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good, thank you, John. Any other concerns? All right, not seeing any. Then next item on our agenda is the Hannah Harwood Funds policy update. And I'll turn this over to Megan, who I think is in charge of that policy.
Cheryl and I had worked to revise this policy upon receiving an email from the secretary that Dennis had wanted us to review it prior to this meeting so that we could get it posted in January based on the way the policy is written. Unfortunately, Mike was unable to join us for the discussion, but Cheryl and I worked diligently, maybe if I could speak, on bringing it kind of up to speed, addressing some concerns that we had last time, trying to make it a little bit more unbiased than it was last time around so that more members can hopefully participate in it. Hopefully we got it out to you all in enough time to take a look at it. And if you have any questions or concerns regarding it, Cheryl and I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Megan. Board members, any comments or concerns about the policy?
Yes.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I went over it very briefly, and if you could just clarify one issue, the eligibility portion. Who is actually eligible? Is it just students from Oxford High School and Bay Path? Or is it seniors that are in any school as long as they are Oxford residents? Could you clarify that?
I think it's meant to be open to public and private seniors as long as they reside in Oxford. Because it doesn't specify in the history of the Hannah Harwood Fund that it has to be Oxford High or Bay Path. So we thought that it would be right to open it to the Oxford residents that are seniors in the other schools as well. But the other criteria also kind of speak to economic need as being a factor as well to be considered, grade point average. They have to be going into the allied health field with some sort of letter of acceptance and confirmation of attendance, and entering into the freshman year of undergraduate education. So ideally, all of those criteria will be met. We just figured it would be nice to open up the pool to private schools as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the board with questions or comments?
I just have one question to kind of curtail what John was talking about. What about Oxford residents who are maybe a little bit older in life, that are having change of career or continuing their education after working for a while, not necessarily a high school student who is getting ready to graduate, but maybe, just an example out there, a single parent who decides to go to Bay Path to pick up take their nighttime CNA courses or LPN courses type deal, or maybe even Quinn Sig's nursing. So they're not necessarily a high school student, but maybe later in life. Is this open to them also?
Further down in the policy, it does say that should no applicants meet the above referenced criteria, the Board of Selectmen reserves the right to award the scholarship to the most appropriate candidate. So say they meet 4 of the 5, but they're not a senior, that would potentially qualify them. If there was no appropriate candidates, they could be considered. They're not necessarily excluded from the award.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
All right, any other comments? Then, do we want to vote on this, Megan? Is that what you would look forward as probably a motion to approve this policy going forward?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to approve this policy to replace the current policy, to update the current policy. I also wanted to mention one of the changes that we did put in that we didn't mention is that the annual allotment is up to $1,200. In years past, we've advertised it as $1,200. However, Cheryl had reached out to the treasurer's office, and this is a decision that's apparently made in conjunction with the treasurer's office to determine what we have for funding in the account based on interest earned, from what I understand. This year, they're actually recommending that the scholarship is $1,000 based on what's on the account. I guess that's what it was last year as well. So it was just important to make that note that it could be up to $1,200, not necessarily always $1,200. And like I said, she was recommending this year that it's advertised at $1,000.
Very good point. Well, knowing the people that are on the committee, I will make the motion to approve this new policy update as presented to us on today's date, January 20th, 2021. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve this policy. Any other questions or comments? Then I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. That's 5 in the affirmative. Thank you very much for your hard work on that, ladies. Okay, we're back to the town manager's report. Jen, you're up. I think you're at number 5.
No, I'm gonna go back to number 1 because
Oh, yes.
oh, there he is. I was gonna say, because I thought I saw Jared Duval on there. As you know, there was a request from Selectman LeBlanc, I think it's shared by everybody, to look at perhaps getting a Sakarapa bridge, not bridge, dam culvert update. I do know that I had circulated, albeit late in the day, is when I received it from the director, who had actually done some assessment and research. He's only been in the job since November 30th. So he's been catching up to speed on all fronts, but I hope you saw the additional email that I had sent out with it. But even if you haven't, I know he's going to reference the memorandum that relates to the Sakarapa Road culvert replacement project. And with that, I'll leave it up to the director to kind of walk us through both the history and where he sees us going with it. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Madam Manager, and good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to provide an update to the board and to the town manager as well with respect to this project. So as she said, it's been a process to get reacclimated since my official start after Thanksgiving. I have to commend town manager as well for the portfolio of projects that have been amassed since I had left here. It's really a testament, I think, to her support and advocacy for this department. So I really look forward to advancing those projects, and not least of which is this project, the Sakarapa Road Bridge, culvert, dam, however you want to classify it. It's a really unique structure, as you're all well aware. So I was very eager to get reacquainted with that project. One of the first meetings that I had when I came on board was, with meetings with our internal folks that had been involved with the project when I was away, and also with Weston & Sampson Engineers, our structural engineering consultant that's been working on this for some time, just to get up to speed. So I've had continued discussions with them over the past few weeks, the most recent of which was today, actually, to just get another update. So I'll reference, obviously, the memorandum hopefully you have in front of you. I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have about the project. If I can't answer a particular question, I'll get that information for you and share that information at a later date. I'd be more than happy to. So I guess I'll start with a bit of unfortunate news. It's probably the story of this project as it relates to 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic that's still ongoing, is with regards to the permitting phase that we're still finding ourselves within. And the process has really been severely impacted by COVID-19. There's 3 required permits that are required basically for us to proceed with construction of this project. An order of conditions from our local conservation commission, that's already been issued. So that's good news. That's been issued since back in February of 2020. We are still awaiting the Chapter 91 waterway license from Mass DEP and the 404 dredging and filling permit through Army Corps. So we have been in constant contact with these agencies. Our consultant and our permit expert from Weston Sampson, again, constant correspondence with them to see where they're at in their reviews. And again, they're just backlogged. There is a backlog of permits that they're dealing with, obviously, as things got put on hold during COVID-19 and as they try to catch up here. That being said, we're hopeful that we receive the final permit approvals for both within the next month or so, but it's worth noting that timetables are still very much unclear. The good news is that the project design is complete. It's been complete for some time. That design to date incorporates all comments that we've received from the various agencies that we've submitted permit applications to, including Oxford Concom, Mass DEP, Army Corps, and pertinent historical commissions, local and both state. So the design, the plans, everything that we've received to date, it captures all of their comments. The structure is being designed now as really more of a dam structure. There's been some concerns as we advance through the design. The geotechnical engineers at Weston & Sampson identified that really the structure is performing or acting really as a dam, because we have that impoundment of water upstream from the culvert. They want to prevent any seepage. So that means more robust walls that have been incorporated into the design. And we're also raising the grade of the roadway, the height of the existing roadway grade 3 to 4 feet above what is there presently to create a safer roadway profile once this is built out. So our tentative plan is to bid this out in early spring still. We're hopeful that we get the permits and we can do that with the tentative award date in July, at the beginning of the fiscal year. And we anticipate a 4-month construction duration, so that would leave time to get this complete this construction season in advance of the winter weather. We can, and I know this has been on hold for some time, and the story's been that we're waiting on permits, and it's taken a considerable amount of time. I mean, my understanding of these permit review processes, they can take several months under normal circumstances, even up to 4 to 5 months. So with COVID-19, there's no surprise that it's taken much longer than that. We could move to bidding this out earlier. Just understand there's some risk there, this inherent risk that the pricing that we receive from contractors may be inaccurate, because it wouldn't include any potential comments from these agencies, from their final permit review. So we don't anticipate that. Based on my discussions with our consulting engineers, we don't anticipate any major changes that'll impact the design, but it is something to think about if we decide to go that route. And we also need to note that if we bid this out earlier than later, we're subject to the bidding market, right? So it's tough to tell at this point. And based on what Weston Sampson is telling us, is that projects are coming in slightly higher than they've seen historically for this type of work because of COVID-19. So bidding it out earlier than later will help us in that regard. If we see how the bids come in, we can see how that shakes out with the appropriation that we have in our funding to see if we need to make up any sort of delta should the projects come in, higher than we anticipate. So that's a bit of a little synopsis as to where we've been and what we're waiting on and what our action plan is here moving into the spring. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have again. And again, thank you for the opportunity to present this to you tonight.
Thank you, Jared. Board members, any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Cheryl.
thank you. Jared, first of all, I want to make sure that you understand my comments are not in any way directed towards you in any way, shape, or form. Okay, I want to make sure that that is extremely clear. I am looking at a memo from the DPW of March 2nd of last year with basically the almost identical timeline. And I have to tell you, regardless of COVID or not, I'm extremely disappointed that this project has not moved at all. Now, I understand that there is COVID. I understand that there are some things, but I'm very concerned about the sheer fact, and again, Jared, not you. I understand you're just kind of coming in and picking up the pieces, but these are the exact same things that we heard a year ago, and it was almost identical things that we heard 18 months ago. And the fact that, we could have our permits within a month, we hope to have the permits within a month or two. I'm horrified. I'm horrified, not from the perspective of, I understand that everything that's going on with COVID, but we've had this bridge issue for 8 years. We have residents paying taxes for 8 years without this type of transportation and access to their own homes. And not to mention that even though I have been told by numerous fire people, including the people in this town, that, we had a couple of deaths up there, but it didn't have anything to do with the fact that Sakarapa isn't fixed. And, and I'm glad to hear that, but at the same time, I am so disappointed that this project is not nearly as far along as we had been told in the past. And, and you know what, with all due respect, if this truly is being held up in the warranty, in the permitting process, then shame on the state for not doing what they should be doing. And, I would reach out to a selectman, to a representative or two, but, apparently they don't know what's going on either. So all I can say is that, Jen, you're the town manager. This project falls under you. It can get done when it gets done. But as a selectman, I'm outraged and I'm very concerned for the people in that area. And I really am grateful for the update, and I do hope that maybe this will move forward. But if I was that engineering company, I hope that they're preparing a memo for you, telling you exactly when they submitted this, how many times they followed up with it. And I hope that they have a good reason for why it hasn't been looked at, despite the fact that, we do have COVID. So again, I really, really appreciate it. I'm grateful that you're here. I hope you don't take it personally, but I think we're just about at the end of our rope, at least as far as a selectman is concerned. I'm at the end of my rope with this project because I fear I fear we have to go back to the townspeople for more money because they're not going to like it. And we have, with all due respect, I can't say that we don't share fault in that some way, shape, or form, but I hope all of our projects aren't like this. And, you know, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your latitude in speaking on this matter. Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know, you mentioned the manager. I can't see putting the blame on her. I will agree with you 1,000%. It's on a state level, you know, and you're right. It's very tough when you contact your state reps and senators and they can't get an answer for us. Just amazing that, you know, the DPW, the DEP, excuse me, could have such authority as to hold up something so important. And that's where it is. So I think that's the biggest thing. Is that correct, Jared? The biggest one is the DEP?
Yeah,
Once we
that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
once we get that one, we're pretty much ready to go, right?
That's right. You'd want that in place certainly before construction. And again, you know, it may serve us well now to simply get this project out to bid and see what the market bears, see how the prices come in. We can put language in the contract documents, you know, to put out. We can have a time frame for which those bids are good for, just to give us a little bit of latitude. Depending if the prices do come in higher, hopefully we don't have to look for additional funding, but it does give us an opportunity to do that. And then that's sort of why you're seeing the July start date there, that we would put that out to the next fiscal year to potentially start the project if need be. It just gives us a little bit of flexibility there, not knowing what the bidding market will bear right now. It's a bit of an unknown. So that's really the critical path item here, I think, is to get this out to bid as soon as we can and see how the prices come in.
Excuse me, board members, I hope you don't mind me talking. Is that a possibility that we could put this out for bid with the stipulation that the parameters might change slightly after we hear from DEP? Or is that kind of like not a very good idea?
We could. I think the risk you run, again, if we were to get something back from DEP that changed anything significantly, which we don't anticipate, but even changed it a little bit, if we had already put it out to bid and had a contractor on board, we could address that as a change order at that time. If there was anything that was going to substantially, you know, deviate from what they bid, if there's any sort of added cost that they would incur. You know, if we end up hearing back beforehand and we would have included that information in the bid, well, they would have included that cost there. So it may be sort of 6 and 1/2 dozen the other is, you know, one way to look at it. But at least by putting it out to bid now, you know, I hear the public safety concerns and the need to show some progress on this, obviously, that, you know, we can put it out before we get the final word on those licenses and again, see what they come back with. And hopefully it's in short time frame here. And if we have a contractor on board, again, we can address it at that time, and it may just have to be a change order.
Sounds like a great idea to me because, you know, the sooner we can get that out to bid and get a monetary value on this thing, I think the better off for the town and, you know, the community as a whole to understand what this is going to cost. But that's just my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the board would think about that, or even our town manager, what your thoughts are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have had discussions with the DPW director on a number of projects, including this, and that actually was my recommendation. I think one of the things that we don't do as managers and administrators is put projects forward without having a firm knowledge. The $800,000 was passed before I came to town. And obviously, the engineering firm is listening both to recommendations that are being pushed towards it by its consultations with perhaps state agencies and other entities that actually help them develop the actual project. What can happen is exactly what's happening now that Jared is talking about, which is we don't know exactly what that price tag will be, even though it was put forward that we thought maybe 800,000. Again, that was before mine time. What I would say is I don't sell false hope about pricing unless I actually have a firm foothold on that and then present to town meeting. So if we have a better foothold on that, once we are very sure that we're meeting the requirements that the state wants, then we can go forward. Otherwise, you're going to go forward and then you're going to come backwards asking for money. So I am hoping that whatever changes they've made, it will be nominal. People have to bear in mind, I'm not an engineer, but I will tell you, having worked with construction projects for a long time, the pricing changes from year to year, and it certainly changes during a pandemic. And so I don't know what that will be. And so I share everybody else's frustration, but I'm certainly not going to let that deter me at all in actually continuing to work the project forward with our DPW director. And that I think speaks volume to the townspeople that we are definitely concerned about the project. We are definitely concerned about what the price tag will be. It's easy to just kind of put it out there, but it's harder to actually make sure we can pay for it. And also, most importantly, make sure we have the permission to go forward from the right entities. And so from what I understand from Jared and what I understood from Sean prior to his departure, we're still not quite there. And I'm a little bit heartened to hear that Jared does agree with me that if we don't have a firm price tag on it, based on all of the other information that has come along since the project has been defined better by the engineering company, my hope is that by putting it out to bid, we will get an actual firmer grasp of that. And my commitment as town manager, as it has been for generating a lot of resources for capital projects, hopefully we can include it somewhere within the budget that I have yet to present or the capital plan. So I would like to try to continue to move in a direction that is not just considerate of where we're at, but also considerate on how we actually inform the townspeople. And if it means that we have to go for a little bit more money, which I have no idea if that will be true or not, hopefully I'll be able to absorb that in some manner that we don't have to go back to the taxpayers. But I'm not, like I said, I have no idea what that will be. And I don't think Jared has that idea right yet. So as soon as we do, we put it forward and then we'll try to get it done. And that's the commitment that I've made for all projects, and I would make that. And at the end of the day, it's up to us, all of us collectively, to sell that to the townspeople if that's what it takes. Because at the end of the day, you know, we all believe that whatever the funding is going to take is going to be what is necessary to get the project done. And that's no less important or more important than any other projects I think that we do, that we know there's a history that, you know, is very important to the community, and know that the residents of a particular area are dependent on that. And so that has been a commitment from myself. I'm going to continue to do that. And I have great hopes for Jared to help shepherd the necessary information as the DPW director so that we can all be informed enough to advocate and make sure that the project stays on track, regardless of whether we're in COVID or not. Hopefully things will continue to improve all around because of COVID. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Jen. The other thing is that couldn't we put it out to bid, and then if it does come in, we have Chapter 90 money. If we have to, you know, derail another project in town to make sure this gets done, I personally, I think that's I know I'm biting my nose to spite my face in that case, because you're gonna upset other people that, gee, hey, my road isn't getting done. But I have to agree with Cheryl, you know, enough is enough. And, you know, So I personally, I don't know if you need a vote from this board or what, but I personally think that, we should just put it out for bid and say that there could be changes down the road. And then see what we get for a price coming into it. That's, I don't know, maybe I'm talking out of my head.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I did state that that was the plan of action. We don't need a vote from the board to actually put it.
okay, all
Um,
right,
What we needed is to make sure that both the engineering firm and whatever information they have culled from the state entities on the direction that they feel that they're going to go in, despite not having the final permit in hand, that we can hopefully estimate around those recommendations that might be being made in consultation with our engineering firm, and then put out a bid that meets more of the requirements that they would like to have contained in the project. It's not even like what they would want to have contained, it's what they require to have in the
right,
project. And that's something that, Jared would know how to structure that the RFP for that.
all right, sounds great. Board members, any more comments or questions? No, and thank you very much, Jared. Thank you, Jen.
Welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you, Jared. The next item is number 5, the COVID-19 Oxford update. I just wanted to inform the board, we've had, as of January, 2 days ago, 721 cases totally, with 60 current active cases. The active cases have dipped a little bit for us. I hope that's a good sign that we're not in a trend right now for another surge after the December and New Year's holidays. We did go up considerably, but right now we've kind of leveled off. And we continue to have a total of 13 deaths. Overall, Massachusetts is at over 13,000 deaths. So let's hope that we're going to continue in a positive trend even here. Having said that, I did meet on Saturday, January 9th, with the Board of Health to be considering us looking at emergency dispensing at our normal annual EDS drill that took place at the Oxford High School. We did have a member of the Department of Public Health that was present, along with 2 members of the Board of Health. And during that time period, we reviewed our normal protocols that we put in place. We did a much larger scale active drill last year, prior to COVID beginning in earnest. And we were looking at how we should prepare should an emergency situation arise. During that time period, the director, well, not the director, one of the DPH members had explained to us that it looked like the DPH was going to move more vigorously in trying to move actual vaccines out to different sites. One of them would be Harrington Memorial Hospital, which is at the armory that most of our police and fire had gone to get a vaccine. But there are other sites. So I actually, this past Friday, met with both Kerry Singer and our new Director of Public Health, which I'll explain who she is after I finish this particular agenda item. We spoke about some other potentials for actually helping the next level of the public through the 3-phase plan of the governor to receive vaccinations. Dr. Sharma from the town of Webster has reached out to us and a number of other people. So what we're actually trying to do is look at, could we actually either do a vaccination clinic here in town, but we don't have access to the vaccine right now, or can we use our resources in some manner to help for each stage of the 3 categories for vaccine distribution and dispensing? Can we help get that word out and help people register and then motivate them into the direction of where that may occur? So we're in the beginning phases of that. There is another meeting that's going to take place later this week to try to determine how we might best move forward. And I know that we'll be sharing that with the the Board of Health as well. Since I've already alluded to the fact that we finally actually do have a Director of Public Health Services, which has been a strategic goal for the town even prior to the pandemic coming. It just so happens that it's been a very difficult time to try to recruit and draft someone into our employment who is somebody who has a public health background. I'm happy to say that Allison Novak has joined our employment here at Oxford. She is got a very strong background in public health and has served in the Cambridge Public Health Department for many years, has a master's in public health, and she just started yesterday and has already been starting to settle in to getting familiar to where we are, and has been in touch with our public health nurses, our administrative assistant, and also our Board of Health chairwoman and myself. So I will have her come before the board as soon as she gets kind of settled in to give her perspective on where we're at and maybe introduce herself a little bit more to you. Like I said, we have been looking at the distribution for the vaccine, and I will provide an update to the board once we determine which way we may be actually moving, and perhaps some board members can help us get the word out once we're set up to do that. The other piece of vaccination, there was a lot of talk about the Department of Public Health had announced initially that they were going to require school-age children to actually get the regular flu vaccine. That has since been revoked by the administration. So there will no longer be a requirement that school-age children actually get a flu vaccine in combination with a COVID vaccination. So they're going to now just focus exclusively on COVID vaccines and not regular flu vaccines. I don't know if everybody has gotten that word because it was kind of confusing. They came out with it and now they've actually retracted that. The other piece of it is just to let everybody know that Governor Baker has extended the temporary reduction of occupancy levels across many sectors, including offices and indoor space and businesses. But he's extending that till January 24th. And again, a lot of the occupancies have been reduced to 25% in most sectors, no more than 10 persons in indoor events and 25 external. And the next item is the fact that we are just about to have our first meeting on the war memorial projects that we're doing in town as a result of a grant that we have obtained. The World War I plaque has been removed and restoration is nearly complete, and we will be meeting tomorrow. Oh yeah, sorry, Tim, I forgot you were in the background there. Thank you. Tim has a couple of pictures. I know that the police chief had said he had gone by quite a few times. They were up very early in the morning, and for historical preservation purposes, I thought it was important, and Tim was so willing to just make sure he was there very early in the morning so that we could document what was taking place. So as you can see, he was taking some pictures and he will put together, I think, a video for us in the end. You can see our plaque was lifted. It was quite the ordeal. The big bronze plaque was taken off and moved to the location of where it's starting to be restored, and by Colonial Stone. And you can see them in their action here, starting to remove a lot of the built up debris. And there's quite a bit of a process that they go through. I don't know all of it, but it certainly looks kind of intense to me. And he'll continue to go through it. But, you know, the meeting for tomorrow will be looking to actually consider designs and placement of the new monument base where this plaque will be actually reaffixed. And I think that some of the preliminary designs that I'm seeing or hearing about, you know, will be left up to the what I call design selection group that we put together, and hopefully we can come up with a solid plan on how we'd like to see it done. And as you can see from the moment that it was taken off to where it looks now, it's starting to look pretty glimmering. So I like that. The other monument that we've never really had a monument to is the Spanish-American War. And they are also intent on wanting to actually create a proper monument for that on the common, as opposed to just a little stone at the base of I think the flagpole. So the group will consider that too. So I'm looking forward to that. I just wanted to also let you know that as part of the Green Communities Grant for our first designation grant year, I'm pleased to announce that we've completed yet another infrastructure project that I know would not be done had we not gotten the grant. And that is the LED conversion lights for the senior center, the library, and both fire stations. We were able to actually squeeze in an additional site because we were able to get higher utility incentives in this particular round for our retrofits. So that's good. I wanted to let the board know that I just had a meeting yesterday to discuss actually advancing us to the competitive round. I'm looking to get another $200,000 to be able to move us into the other buildings that have not been done. My hope is, and hopefully in the competitive round, the state will allow us to move forward with potentially 2 school buildings if we can squeak it out with both LED retrofits, perhaps at the 2 elementary schools, as well as a weatherization program. If we were able to do this, it could save us upwards of $30,000 a year in savings. The other projects that we had done this past year will save us another $30,000 annually every year. So in 2 years' time, we'll be adding another 60+ thousand to the bottom line, which is very helpful overall in terms of utility savings. The last, no, it's not the last item, almost last item. The conflict of interest law and ethics training, it's that time again. You will have received notification about the conflict of interest law and ethics training. And if you are due for renewal, please just do that and make sure that you've received that email from D Green relative to your status. And I know the clerk's office will receive those certificates. And the last item is just to let everybody know, because it's one of the areas everybody always asks, is cat and dog licensing began on January 4th, and our payments can be made not only on our website, but we have created fillable forms, both my office and Tim Labonte through the media production area have been moving many old-fashioned hand fillable forms to online fillable forms. And we've been doing that in as many departments as we can, including that. And hopefully that has been very helpful to the public to be able to get their online payments and also their online documents and requests for documents that they require. And that would be the end of my manager's report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Madam Town Manager. We'll go to Selectmen's request and start with Selectman Megan Triano.
I just have one thing today. It was brought to my attention yesterday that we have a sidewalk safety hazard. I don't know if you want to call it a safety hazard, perhaps an maybe handicap access hazard in the 600 block on Main Street, namely between 614 and 628. The mailboxes are smack dab in the middle of the sidewalk. I drove by yesterday to look for it myself because the individual that complained to me indicated that they watched a man with a walker trying to get by one the other day, and he literally could not fit past the mailboxes with his walker. So I did drive by there, and the mailboxes are in the middle of the sidewalk, blocking most of the sidewalk. So I didn't know where that issue fell. I know sometimes post offices dictate where mailboxes go, but I can't imagine that they would dictate that a mailbox block a sidewalk. So I just didn't know if it was something that we could look into to see if we can somehow relocate the mailboxes so that the sidewalks can be user friendly, because they are currently not, mainly around like Crimson Corner. But I drove through and it's pretty much contained from what I could see in the 600s, but the worst part of it, like I said, is between 614 and 628 Main Street.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I will talk with the DPW director. In my head, I was talking a little bit out loud and didn't realize I had myself not on mute. I do believe that issue had been raised by my office to previous DPW director. And there was, I know there was an assessment and outreach, I believe, to the post office. So I will make sure that we follow up on that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I had tonight.
Thank you. Cheryl, you're up next.
Jen, I have a question, and I probably just need a little bit of a refresher, but I saw this letter in our packet from to John McCarthy, Executive Director of the Mass School Building Authority. What are we doing again over there? And I apologize because I have a feeling you've already said this, but what projects do we have planned over there?
I don't have the actual projects in front of me.
Oh.
That's what we're going to be meeting about.
Oh, okay.
In reality, we submitted statements of interest for each school. That was one of the recommendations the executive director had said, that if you really want to actually give us a viable statement of interest proposal, originally we were conceptualizing putting all the schools together, but enumerating them out, what their projects were. And they don't look as favorably upon that because they don't know what to pick and choose. So by actually, putting each category of projects under each school, that gave us, I think, a better proposal. So that's why you saw that letter. I wanted to thank the executive director for not only giving us that information, but more importantly, instead of being 5 years out for a potential discussion of entering us into a round, they have moved the middle school project, not the other two, but the middle school project into the next round. But what they'll actually support or not, we had discussions about what we were going to submit, but it's at the end of the day, it's going to be their discretion. And I think we're in the very beginning phases. So as soon as I know what those will be, most definitely I'll be sharing with you guys.
All right.
Don't know
Great.
what
Thank you very much. I was just wondering what that was, but okay.
Yep. Okay.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, Cheryl. Mike, you're up.
I was not able to make the last meeting, so I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Even though we're halfway through the first month of the new year, Happy New Year, everybody. I'll be hit or miss with some of these meetings through the end of February for now. But again, Happy New Year, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mike. John? You're muted, John.
I said I have about a half hour's worth of discussion that I want to do this evening, but I'll hold it for another time.
Right? You serious?
No, I don't have anything.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
all right, John, thank you. And I don't have anything, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative, we are adjourned. Thank you.